Hello. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. This is a difficult day for me personally. I love the team. I love our exciting future, and I love the people who, work for our organization, our players, our coaches, our staff. This moment, obviously, we're not talking about our exciting future, at least initially. We're talking about, disappointing situation for everyone. And I'd like to thank our staff, players, fans, media, and colleagues across the league for the patience that while we conducted a fair and thorough investigation. The results of the investigation conducted by Paul Weiss determined that Bryan Colangelo failed to safeguard sensitive, non-public, club-related information. Ultimately, Bryan offered his resignation, realizing the detrimental way in which these circumstances impacted our organization and his ability to do his job effectively. I want to thank Bryan sincerely for all of his many contributions during his time here in Philadelphia. He has positioned us well for future success. As stewards of the organization, we remain steadfast in our commitment to bring a championship to Philadelphia. That's what matters. In order to achieve that goal, we need to run the organization with the highest integrity and by attracting the best and the brightest people on and off the court. We believe we are incredibly well positioned for the future and are on the cusp of something truly special. As such, we will continue to do what's in the best interest of this organization. Brett Brown, sitting next to me, will oversee our talented basketball operation department on an interim basis. We have tremendous confidence in Brett and our basketball operations staff, which are very talented, and we look forward to further strengthening our team through the NBA draft and offseason. We just extended Brett's contract and added respected coaching veteran Monty Williams to Brett's staff. Monty is an important hire who is highly sought after around the league. Adding him shows the momentum in our coaching staff and front office in attracting the best talent. We will begin the search for a new general manager immediately, interviewing both internal and external candidates. As always, we will take our time and try to make the choice that best positions this franchise for long-term success. It's not about making the choice quickly, it's about making the right choice. This is one of the best opportunities in all of sports, and we recognize we have the unique opportunity to be a championship caliber team for years to come. We have the best fans in the world, and our mission is to deliver to them the team they expect. I thank the city and our fans deeply from the bottom of my heart. We really appreciate you bearing with us, and we're going to work tirelessly to achieve the championship that is our goal. And now I'd like to open it up for any questions you might have for either Brett or for myself.
Mike.
Josh, sure. Mike Sealski from the Philadelphia Inquirer and Daily News. Josh, Jerry Colangelo came in here in 2015 for a reason and ended up, however it turned out that way, his son ended up getting hired as the general manager here. How great an influence, if any, did he have over the last week or two while you guys were going through the process of deciding what to do about what had happened here with Bryan?
Yeah, Jerry was not involved with the process in any way. I am aware of the press report. It's just not true. We did, give Jerry a heads up, at the end of the process, just before this morning, just before seeing you all. But, Jerry was respectful of the process that we had to go through.
Josh, Howard asking WIP and Fox
We all know. Just kidding.
Okay. I saw a quote within the last few minutes that Bryan said he did not share. I mean, you mentioned that he shared information. He believed he did not share sensitive or whatever kind of information you guys concluded in the investigation. How do you respond to that and what's happened today?
Yeah, look, this was a very sensitive moment for our franchise, and Brian and his family's personal lives, and his career were at stake. And so what we did is we hired the best possible experts that we could find to run a really thorough and fair investigation, and then we asked them to provide a statement as to what they thought, and they've written that statement, and so we're going to abide by that statement. Certainly, if Brian disagrees with that statement, he should talk to you, but we feel like that this was an incredibly fair investigation, and that they've put out what they think is the right information and result.
Rich Hoffman, The Athletic. Josh, there was, beyond the sensitive information, there was, from those Twitter accounts, there was very critical comments of some of your star players. That's Joel Embiid, Markelle Fultz, a few other players. How much of an effect did that have? And have you talked to your players about this? What was the role that those comments played?
Want to take this? Go ahead.
Sure. I have spoken to all of our players, and there was a level of uncertainty when it was first declared. When it first became public, there was certainly confusion. We understand Joel's immediate reaction. I have had the chance to speak to, since then, most of our players, and it certainly was an incredibly unfortunate situation that did confuse people. It confused our players. We feel strong, like the communication with our players has been achieved.
Josh, and then Brett, Jamie Pody, Channel 6 Action News. You guys have worked so hard to legitimize yourself as a franchise, and what a great season you had in doing so. And now that this has happened, there have been jokes around the NBA. LeBron James joked about it. How frustrating is that for you as an owner and for you as a coach to have had that happen, especially coming off such a successful season?
Look, it's an unfortunate circumstance, but I honestly believe that this franchise is incredibly well positioned. I think we're moving forward, and we maybe have the, if not the brightest, and I would argue the brightest, amongst the brightest futures in the NBA and in professional sports. So I think it's an unfortunate situation, but it doesn't change where we are as a franchise, and we're incredibly focused on the draft and free agency, improving our team. Other than Brian, we have a lot of continuity. We're adding to the coaching staff. We have a lot of continuity of the front office. Brett's been here for many, many years, and we feel really, really great about where we are. But we would obviously have preferred that this didn't happen.
Jessica,
I mean, we've all been doing stuff like this long enough to understand that this too shall pass. And I feel that the body of work that we've done over the years and our most recent successful season is going to put us in fantastic shape, where we will go into a place with integrity. We will go into a place, when you're talking about free agency, with a proven style of play, a proven way we try to grow people and a culture. And we will walk into that room with our head high, our shoulders back, and we are, as Josh said, incredibly excited about what is ahead of us. And this incredibly sad situation will not get the better of us as it relates to moving the program forward. I feel very confident saying that.
Jessica Camerato, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Josh, how was the decision made to put Brett into this interim role? And then, Brett, what was your reaction and outlook as you step into this additional position?
Yeah, so the decision to put Brett in was, in my opinion, an obvious one, in the sense that the choice of our GM, and as I mentioned, we're going to look at both external and internal candidates, is one that's incredibly important to the franchise, and rushing it, there's not an obvious reason to rush it. And so therefore, with free agency and the and the draft looming, like we needed to have someone that ultimately spoke for the basketball organization, and we felt that Brett was the right candidate for that, and in terms of everything that he's achieved and his longevity with the franchise. But I want to underscore that, like, you know, underneath, whether, you know, we have an incredibly talented group in the front office, and, you know, they're, you know, all committed, working hard, and, you know, ready to move forward in terms of, you know, their jobs, and they're the real you know, they, you know, as leaders, you know, we all, you know, get some of the credit, but at the end of the day, the magic happens with, you know, the front office staff. And so, you know, but that was how we worked through it, those trade-offs.
I think one of the tremendous legacies that Bryan should be recognized for is he really, and I mean really, did a great job of putting key people in key positions. And when I look at our front office, the firepower that we really have with Alex Rucker and Ned Cohen and Danny Medina leading our medical department, Mark Eversley, Elton Brand, you know, and it's like you can go on, that we have the firepower that we need to move this forward and not miss a beat. I have no desire to get involved with the day-to-day stuff that, you know, a normal general manager needs to go through to build us. That's not my desire at all, nor is it my belief that that's an effective way to move an NBA program forward. And so my role is one of trying to provide the best leadership that I can, and show faith and support, and have fun with this and move this program forward with them over the next, you know, month and a half. The free agent market, the draft, keeping our current players on track with their development plans, and keeping in touch with them. Those are the things that will rule my day, will rule our day. In regards to my role in all of this, it's simply to provide a level of leadership with people that I trust and respect, and do the best that I can while I'm here moving us forward.
Josh, Zach Geld, CBS Sports Radio. You understand that the fan base, a large portion of the fan base, has a great appreciation for what Sam Hinkie did. If he was willing to maybe come back to the organization, would you guys at least talk to him about that?
Yeah, we have a lot of respect for Sam, and you know, we appreciate how he's positioned our franchise, and we haven't started thinking about, we're gonna do our best to find the absolute best GM and moving forward, the absolute best leader of the basketball organization, and we need to start to think about that now. The last week has been really about moving as quickly as we could through this process.
Keith Pompey with the Inquirer. Josh, it's the goal to have a general manager in place, you know, by the end of June at the start of free agency.
Yeah, the goal is to find. Everything we do is trying to create long-term success and ultimately championship caliber DNA. And so the goal is to find a GM that can do that, that can work and within the context of the very talented team that we have here. And so if we can do that by the end of June, we're going to do it by the end of June. But I think that we want to make the right choice, not the fast choice. And I think that it is. If the right person comes along by the end of June, we're certainly going to jump at that, because that obviously solves two issues at once. But I suspect that it's going to take longer, because I think that's the way these things are. It takes you a little bit of time to be thoughtful. So I think it's likely to take longer than that, but certainly, you know, doing it as fast as we can is what we're going to do in the context of the other things that I said.
Mike Sealski from the Inquirer again. Josh, you mentioned that you still have a lot of continuity in the front office, but since you've purchased the team, you're looking at now your basically fourth general manager / director of basketball operations in 6 years. Number one, how great a consideration was that lack of continuity in determining what you were going to do with Bryan over the last week? If you could speak to that first.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that what drove the decision on Bryan was I guess his belief and our belief that, his effectiveness leading the organization, given what had been, come out on social media, was impaired. So that's really what drove the decision. I'd say that, so that's the answer to your first question. I'm not sure.
Sure. No, and my second question is for you as well. Why haven't you been able, since your ownership began, to establish any kind of continuity in the front office?
Well, look, I think that we've grown a lot. We've been through a lot as an organization, and when you're there are people. Sometimes things happen with people, but I'd say that we have a lot of continuity in the coaching staff, and our goal is to create. We don't. The way we approach this is, we think longevity is a worthwhile goal. We think people working together and developing partnerships is a goal. So I think that so far there's been a little bit of turnover at that position. We're looking for Mr. and Mrs. Right, where we can build over the long run. We haven't been able to hit on that person yet. This situation was an unfortunate one because we were really appreciative and positive of the job Ryan was doing, but we felt that we and he and we felt the need to move in a different direction. So we'll continue to work on that.
Kyle Newbeck with Philly Voice right here. This is for either one of you. So the draft is within the next couple weeks here. I know Brett is the GM on an interim basis. Are we to believe that on draft night that means Brett has final say? Like, I know there's obviously, is that going to be the scouting department is leading that, or who is to be culpable ultimately for those decisions?
Yes, so the way we've run the draft process and the free agency process pretty much forever since we've owned the team is that we hire really good people, and that we allow them to voice their opinions. And then we almost have like what we, in my day job, would be an investment committee where, there's a lot of dialogue and debate around the table, and there's a consensus that we try to develop. And ultimately, the GM is given, a large vote, right? But ultimately, it's not, if we're not on board for it, it doesn't happen. So, and truthfully, like when Brett was the coach and there was a separate GM, we would spend a lot of time forming consensus. It's very rare that, and even within the context of the staff below the GM and the coach level, trying to create consensus around what you're going to do is something that we spend a lot of time on. We think we get better results and better thinking and better decisions when we do that. And that's how, David and I run our businesses in our day job, and that's how the Sixers operates. In terms of like whether it's very rare that you can't ultimately arbitrate a decision, and I think if it ultimately came down to that, I guess Brett, David, and I would have to go in a room and figure it out. But like it's very unusual that we would have a decision like that where people like strongly disagree and we're on both sides.
Matt Petrillo with CBS 3. The Ringer said they asked about these Twitter accounts at least a week before the Ringer broke the story on May 29th. So how long did the front office know about this issue?
Yeah, I would say that our PR department knew about it. In the way the Ringer described it is right. I didn't know about it till the day the story broke. And so there was, I guess, initially a lack of believing the story from people who heard it, and then as the story emerged in all its glory, people all of a sudden understood the gravity and the severity of what was going on. And I heard about it literally an hour before it broke, and then I literally went to bed at like 1 in the morning because we had to decide what to do about it. And it was, and I don't know if you remember, but we announced an investigation that day because and it took us a number of hours to get to that decision because we realized that the amount of information that was being provided by the Ringer was credible, and it wasn't just a made-up story, and we wanted to go through that process. And so we took it seriously and we jumped on it immediately, and it's been a large part of my awake hours since that happened, but because we wanted to treat it really seriously and carefully and make an informed and appropriate and the right decision.
Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad. Brett, this is a question for you about free agency. In your experience, how much does it matter who the general manager is of a team? Theoretically, you have Joel Embiid in place, you have Ben Simmons in place, you have a lot of cap room, and if somebody wants to come here and play with those guys or play in your system, play with you as a coach, isn't that not the overriding factor? I mean, does it really matter who the player personnel executive is, or do players make their choices based on who they want to play with, where the money is, and what system?
In my experience, it's the things that you mentioned that ultimately attract a high-level free agent. You certainly can't diminish the stability and professionalism that a GM can provide. But when you say, why did somebody go play someplace, you would think it was because I'm playing next to Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and Markelle Fultz. And I hope they respect the style of play that we play. I hope they research me and my coaching staff. And I think those things are the things ultimately that tip somebody making a decision. I feel, as I said at the start, as it relates especially to free agency, I think we're going to be just fine. I think we're going to go into the marketplace proud. We're going to go into the marketplace having a real story to tell. And I think that this is going to be an incredibly attractive place of destination for many free agents. And so we feel good about where we're at, and look forward to getting out and trying to attract them.
Brett, you said you guys are going to be fine, but do you feel like you personally are going to have to go out there and put out a lot of fires? Hey, look, everything is fine here. I mean, do you feel like right now, in regards to free agency, that is your role?
Possibly. I feel most strongly that when we go into a place with some of my coaches, and you start bringing Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in with me as an example, that will be sufficient. In relation to, are we going to have to put out fires along the way? You would assume that there could be teams that are competitive that will try to take shots. And we feel comfortable, I feel comfortable that we're equipped, we're armed with the information and facts that we need to not let it be damaging. And, we all get how competitive the NBA marketplace is and free agency is, and we'd all be quite naive to think like we're just going to sail through this. But I feel mostly when people do just a little bit even study about what we have to offer, that we will overcome it.
I saw the sales job that Brett did convincing J.J. Redick to come here on a one-year deal, and granted it also took a little bit of money, as Brett's pointing out. But he got him on the court at 1 a.m. right after we were allowed to, and Joel was there, and they were passing the ball around. He's like, think about Joel kicking it out and you shooting a three. I mean, so I think certainly people will always, as a competitive league, people always try to create uncertainty around their competitors, but I think a lot of my hope is that, is that Brett's going to be out being a great salesman for our franchise. And I'm hopeful that our players that are really committed and who are really, not only in addition to being great basketball players and talented, but good people, will also help with this sales process. And, we got to attract the best in the league. And this isn't, I think from our point of view, there's a relatively small number of people that we want, but if we want them, we're going to have to convince them because they're going to have a lot of opportunities, and that's a role that I really think Brett will play well.
Josh, is the plan to have Jerry Colangelo stay in his role as advisor?
Yeah, so that's not today's issue. I certainly, I've appreciated Jerry's counsel. His deal goes through the end of the year. We're going to be talking about that, and it's probably not today's issue, but we've enjoyed having Jerry, and he's not, I think this whole thing is unfortunate. My respect for him is certainly not colored by this unfortunate situation.
Kristen Rogers, Fox 29. You talk about bringing in the right choice, not the fast choice. What characteristics are you looking for in a person to come fill that role?
Yeah, I'd say leadership, integrity, the ability to work with and surround themselves with, incredibly talented people. And then, an added bonus would be, obviously proven basketball savvy and smarts and intelligence. I think being really smart, those would be the kind of things that we would be looking at for. And there's not that, and the reality is, listen, I mean, we're going to have very high expectations, and this is going to be hard. Like, we look at this as a club that a lot of people are going to want to join, and we have a unique culture here and a unique team, and it's not going to be easy to find that 100% right person, but we're sure going to try. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.